My name is Billy Larkin. I'm 35 years old. And right now, every phone in my grandmother's backyard is buzzing at the same time, because my mother just dropped a message into our family group chat. Every aunt, uncle, and cousin, 48 relatives in all, with a single attachment, a bill. $347,000. The subject line reads, "The cost of raising a failure." Today is Mother's Day. The whole family turns to look at me. They're waiting for me to cry or apologize or crumble. Here's what none of them know. The woman who billed me for raising me from birth didn't raise me for the first 7 years of my life. My grandmother did. I don't argue. I don't cry. I pick up my phone and send one thing into that group chat. A single photograph. By the next morning, 47 people have blocked my mother. The 48th is my grandmother. And she doesn't block her. She does something far worse. Welcome to my channel. Before I tell you the rest, if this story grabs you, hit like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely want to hear more. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Alright, let me take you back to the beginning. Mother's Day in Savannah starts early. The magnolias along Abercorn Street were already heavy with bloom by 7 a.m., and by the time I loaded my car with a 3-tier lemon pound cake and a cooler of fresh strawberry compote, the air was thick enough to chew. I'm a baker. I own Larkin's. 2 locations now, plus a catering arm that keeps me busier than I'd like to admit. I didn't plan this career. I was 2 years into a teaching degree at Georgia Southern when Grandma Pearl had her first stroke. Somebody had to be there. My mother wasn't volunteering. She'd only come back into my life when I was 7, after she married Gerald Vance and had Brooke. And even then her attention went to her new family, not her old one. Brooke was 13 at the time of Pearl's stroke. So I left school, moved back to Savannah, and spent the next year splitting my time between Pearl's bedside and a commercial kitchen I rented for $400 a month. The bakery grew out of necessity, not ambition. But none of that matters to my family. To them, I'm the one who dropped out. My mother, Marlene Vance, has a particular way of introducing her daughters. At any gathering, Brooke goes first. My baby, 27, getting married this fall to a wonderful attorney. Then me. And Billy, she makes cakes. She says cakes the way you'd say crafts about a child's glue project. I've catered weddings for 300 guests. I employ 11 people. Last year, I cleared more revenue than her real estate office, but in Marlene's version of the family, I'm still the dropout who plays with frosting. I pulled into Grandma Pearl's driveway that afternoon, carrying a cake I'd been up since 4 a.m. to finish. In my mother's purse, I'd later learn, was a message she'd drafted 3 weeks ago. Pearl Whitfield's house sits at the end of a dirt and gravel lane in Thunderbolt, just south of the city. It's a 1940s cottage with a screened porch that wraps around 3 sides, a ceiling fan that clicks on every 4th rotation, and a magnolia tree in the front yard so old it has its own lean. This is the only place I've ever felt completely safe. Grandma Pearl met me at the screen door. 81 years old, 5'2", hands still steady enough to thread a needle. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like lavender talc and sweet tea. "Let me see that cake, baby." She held it at arm's length, turned it once, nodded. "You outdid yourself." Then she asked about the catering contract I'd landed last month. A corporate event for a Savannah hospitality group. She asked real questions. Revenue, staffing, timeline. Pearl was a bookkeeper her whole working life, and she respects numbers the way some people respect scripture. She's the only person in my family who treats my work like work. Inside, the house was already full. Dottie, my mother's younger sister, was arranging deviled eggs on a platter. Uncle Wayne was fiddling with the grill on the back deck. Cousins, second cousins, great aunts. The usual Whitfield spread for Mother's Day. And then I heard my mother's voice carrying from the kitchen. She was telling Dottie, loud enough for the hallway to catch it. "I've been paying paying for everything on my own for years. Nobody helps me, Nobody. I stopped walking, because that wasn't true. And Grandma Pearl, standing right behind me, squeezed my hand once under the dish towel. She knew it too. Here's the thing about a lie repeated long enough. It stops sounding like a lie. For weeks before Mother's Day, my mother had been working the phone tree. A comment here, a sigh there. Billy never comes around. Billy hasn't offered a dime for the wedding. I sacrificed everything, and what do I get? By the time the family gathered at Pearl's, the verdict was already in. I could feel it in the way people looked at me, a half-second too long, a smile that didn't reach the eyes. My cousin Tanner, 24, tried to be casual about it. Billy, when you gonna hook the family up with some free cakes? He laughed. A few people laughed with him. It was the kind of joke that isn't a joke. Brooke, my half-sister, touched my arm. Don't take it personally, Billy. He's just playing. Brooke means well, usually. She's 27, engaged to a corporate attorney named Garrett, and has spent her entire life as the easy daughter. The one who stayed in school, followed the script, never made Marlene frown. She doesn't know what it's like to be the other one. I carried the cake to the potluck table on the back deck. Sweet tea in glass pitchers sweating in the heat. Paper plates, citronella candles, a portable speaker playing gospel. Cicadas screaming from every live oak in the yard. Then every phone at the table buzzed at the same time. I felt mine vibrate in my back pocket. So did Dottie. So did Wayne. So did the cousins at the kids' table. 48 phones, 1 notification. I pulled mine out. Group chat. Whitfield family. Sender. Mom. And at the top of the message, a single word. Invoice. My mother set her glass of sweet tea down, smiled, and said, "Everyone, check your phones for me." I opened the message. The document was formatted like a professional invoice. Itemized, numbered, with a header she must have spent hours designing. It read, Marlene Vance, Statement of Account. Across the top, in bold serif font. Below that, my name. And then the line items: prenatal care and delivery, $9,000. Infant and toddler care, ages 0 to 3, $22,000. Childhood expenses, ages 4 through 7, $38,000. School years, ages 8 through 18, $96,000. Years I gave up for you, $90,000. College fund you wasted, $40,000. Emotional labor, 35 years, $52,000. Total, $347,000. At the bottom, in red text, pay it or admit to this family what you've always been. A failure I raised at a loss. I read it twice. The numbers were absurd, inflated, invented, pulled from nowhere. But the audience didn't care about accuracy. They cared about the performance, and Marlene had given them a performance. Around the table, people were scrolling through the invoice on their phones. Some shook their heads slowly. A few glanced at me with pity. Others wouldn't look at me at all. My mother sat across the table with her ankles crossed and her chin lifted. She looked like a woman who had just delivered a closing argument. Then I read the line again. Ages 0 to 3, 22,000. Ages 4 through 7, 38,000. She billed me for years she wasn't even there. She charged me for diapers she never changed, for bottles she never warmed, for nights she never sat up through. Those were Grandma Pearl's years, and Marlene just invoiced them as her own. I set my phone face down on the table. The cicadas hadn't stopped. The ceiling fan on the porch still clicked on every fourth rotation, but the air felt different now. Heavier, tighter, like the minutes before a summer storm rolls in off the coast. I ran the math in my head the way I do when a vendor shorts an order. If I say nothing, 48 people walk away believing I'm ungrateful, that I took and never gave back, that I wasted my mother's investment by dropping out of school, even though I left to take care of Pearl when nobody else would. My reputation in this family, already thin, goes to zero. And my daughter Lacey, 4 years old, asleep in her car seat in the driveway because Sam was going to bring her in after her nap, Lacey grows up hearing that her mama was the family burden. If I fight back the wrong way, if I scream, if I cry, if I call Marlene a liar in front of everyone, I become the dramatic one. The ungrateful daughter who can't even handle the truth on Mother's Day. Marlene wins either way. That's the design. She picked Mother's Day because who argues with their mother on Mother's Day? She sent it to 48 people because a crowd is a jury, and she'd already been coaching the witnesses for weeks. My Aunt Dottie leaned across the table. "Honey, do you want to say something?" I looked at her. I looked at my mother. Then I looked at the invoice again. Ages 0 to 7. She billed me for $60,000 worth of parenting she did not do. And somewhere in my phone, in a folder I haven't opened in months, was a photograph that could prove it. Under the table, I felt a hand close around mine. Pearl. She didn't say a word. She just held on. Firm, dry, steady. The same grip that used to walk me across this yard when I was 3. She knew what was in that invoice. She knew what years 0 through 7 really looked like. She was there. She was the only one who was there. I squeezed back. Here's what I decided in that moment. I wasn't going to narrate my childhood to a table full of people who'd already made up their minds. I wasn't going to list the nights Pearl rocked me to sleep, or the mornings she braided my hair before Head Start, or the summer she taught me to read, using the labels on canned goods because she couldn't afford picture books. No. Telling people a story gives them room to doubt. Showing them doesn't. I had one photograph. I knew exactly which one. It was taken right here, on this porch, on a Mother's Day 33 years ago. Me, 2 years old, on Pearl's hip, both of us squinting in the sun. Behind us, the same magnolia, 20 feet shorter. In the photo, there is no Marlene. She was gone. She had been gone for over a year. And Pearl was holding me the way mothers hold their children when there is no one else to do it. I kept my voice even. "Mom, your invoice says you raised me from birth." Marlene tilted her chin higher. "That's right. Including ages 0 to 7. Every single day." I nodded slowly. "All right." I unlocked my phone, opened the camera roll, scrolled to a folder labeled Pearl. And I knew. She billed me for years she wasn't even there. Marlene spoke first. "Well, Billy? You read it?" Her voice carried across the yard like she was chairing a meeting, practiced, confident. "I did," I said. "So did 48 other people." "Good. Let them hear the truth." "Which truth, Mom?" She narrowed her eyes. "That I raised you. That I sacrificed for you. That I got nothing in return." "From birth?" I asked. "From birth. You're sure about that?" A pause. Half a second. Maybe less. Her smile didn't change, but her fingers tightened around the arm of her chair. Uncle Wayne, 73, sitting in a lawn chair near the grill, cleared his throat. He didn't say anything yet. He just tilted his head the way older men do when something doesn't add up. Marlene noticed. She turned to him fast. "Wayne, you remember. I was there every day." Wayne scratched his jaw. "Marlene, I remember Pearl having that baby quite a bit." "Temporarily," Marlene said. "While I was working?" "Working where?" Wayne asked. The yard went quiet. Somewhere a mockingbird was calling from the magnolia. The ceiling fan clicked. Marlene straightened her back. "I don't have to justify myself to you, Wayne." Then she turned to the rest of the table. "I don't have to justify myself to any of you. I'm the one who raised both my girls. I'm the one who went without so they could've." Dottie, who had been watching this with her fork frozen halfway to her mouth, lowered her plate. "Marlene, she has a point. Where exactly were you those first years?" Marlene's jaw clenched. "I was getting my life together. That's what mothers do. They rebuild." "And who had Billy while you were rebuilding?" Wayne asked. That's when Pearl set her fork down. I could feel the table shifting. Not physically, emotionally. The people who'd been nodding along with Marlene 5 minutes ago were now looking between her and Wayne, between her and Pearl, and the math wasn't adding up. I pressed, but gently. "Mom, Your invoice lists infant care at $22,000. That's right. And childhood expenses, 4 through 7, at $38,000. I raised you, Billy. What address were we living at when I was 3? Silence. Marlene blinked. We moved around. We didn't move around, Mom. I lived here. At this house. With Grandma. That was temporary. I already said that. 3 years is temporary? I was working, Billy. I was building a career so I could give you a future. Her voice climbed half an octave, and I recognized it. The tone she uses when a real estate deal is going sideways, and she needs the buyer to stop asking questions. Around the yard, phones were still glowing. People were rereading the invoice, and now they were reading it differently. Tanner lowered his phone. Aunt Dottie's lips were pressed into a thin line. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't calling her a liar. I was just asking dates and addresses, and the dates and addresses weren't matching the invoice. My cousin Tanner, the same one who'd joked about free cakes an hour ago, looked at his mother, Dottie, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Dottie nodded, then turned to Marlene. Marlene, she's got a point. Marlene's nostrils flared. You're all going to take her side? After everything I've done? Nobody answered. The cicadas filled the gap. I hadn't shown the photograph yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. Marlene did what Marlene always does when she feels the room slipping. She stood up. She pushed her chair back, pressed both palms flat on the table, and addressed the crowd like a pastor at a revival. Let me be clear, she said. I carried that girl for 9 months. I gave birth to her. I came back for her. I enrolled her in school. I drove her to every activity, every doctor's appointment, every... You enrolled me in 3rd grade, I said. I was 8. Another silence. Because enrollment in 3rd grade means someone else handled kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, and everyone at this table went to school. They know the timeline. Marlene's voice sharpened. You are twisting everything. I'm not twisting anything. I'm stating a grade. Brooke, sitting next to Marlene, looked at her mother with an expression I hadn't seen before. Not anger, confusion. Mom, you always said you raised Billy alone from the beginning. I did. Then who enrolled her in kindergarten? Marlene turned to Brooke. Sweetheart, this isn't your concern. It's a simple question. The backyard felt smaller now. The potluck table, loaded with casseroles and cornbread and the lemon cake I'd been up since 4 to bake, sat between us like a referee's desk. Pearl stood. Not fast. She's 81 and her knees aren't what they were. But when Pearl Whitfield stands, people notice. She didn't say a word. She walked into the house through the screen door, and we all heard the spring creak and slap shut behind her. 30 seconds later, she came back out. In her hands, a shoebox. Old, bent at the corners, held together with a rubber band. She set it on the table between the sweet tea pitcher and the deviled eggs. Nobody touched it. The shoebox sat there like a witness waiting to testify, and every eye at the table tracked it. Pearl stood behind her chair, one hand resting on the back. This box, she said, has been in my closet for 30 years. Inside it are photographs, letters, and every receipt I kept from the time Billy was born until the day Marlene came back for her. Marlene's face went pale under her foundation. Mom, don't. Hush. Pearl didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She had a way of saying hush that made it sound like the final word in an argument, not a request, a ruling. I kept these because I'm a bookkeeper. That's what I do. I keep records. She looked at me. Billy, do you want me to open this? I shook my head. Not yet, Grandma. Let me handle this first. She nodded once and sat back down. But the box stayed on the table, rubber band still in place, right next to the sweet tea. I watched Marlene stare at it. She knew what was inside. She had to, because she was there when most of it was written. And the thing about records kept by a woman who spent 40 years balancing ledgers for a living is that they don't lie. They don't exaggerate. They don't round up for emotional labor. They just sit there, in a shoebox, quiet and exact, until someone needs them. Brooke leaned over and whispered to Marlene, I couldn't catch the words, but I caught the tone. It was the first time I'd heard Brooke whisper to our mother in a way that sounded like a question instead of an agreement. The shoebox hadn't even been opened, and it was already changing the air. I looked at my phone again. The group chat notification count was climbing. People who weren't at the cookout, cousins in Atlanta, an aunt in Jacksonville, Pearl's brother's kids in Macon, were responding. Most of them with question marks. A few with, "Marlene, what is this?" One from a great uncle. "This seems excessive." My mother had sent that invoice to 48 people because she wanted a jury. She wanted the weight of the whole Whitfield family pressing down on me until I cracked and apologized. But here's what she miscalculated. A group chat doesn't just go one direction. Once you open that door, everyone walks through it. And not everyone walks your way. I did a quiet inventory. Of those 48 people, at least 12 were old enough to remember the years Pearl had me. Wayne remembered. Dottie half remembered. Pearl's brother Gerald, 79, living in Macon. He remembered. These weren't strangers. These were people who'd driven to this same house 30 years ago and seen a baby on Pearl's hip and no Marlene in sight. They just hadn't talked about it. Because families don't talk about the things that matter most. They talk about potato salad recipes and who's bringing the folding chairs. Marlene assumed silence meant agreement. She was wrong. Silence just meant nobody had a reason to speak up. Until now. Brooke pulled her phone out and scrolled through the chat. "Mom," she said quietly, "people are asking questions." "Let them ask," Marlene said. But her voice had lost half a decibel of confidence, and I caught it. So did Pearl. I wasn't ready to send the photograph yet. I needed Marlene to commit a little deeper. Because every word she said now was another word she couldn't take back. The heat was climbing. 5:30 p.m. in coastal Georgia, and the sun was still heavy, pressing through the porch screens, throwing long shadows across the table. The citronella candles were starting to pool. Somewhere behind us, the grill popped and hissed where Wayne had left the lid open. This is the part where I need to slow down. Because what happened next didn't happen fast. It happened in the specific, dragging, suffocating way that family confrontations do, where every second stretches and everyone is watching and no one blinks. Marlene stood again. She tapped her glass with a spoon. The same move she uses at church luncheons when she wants a room's attention. "I want to say something to everyone here and everyone in the chat." The yard went still. Even the cicadas seemed to pull back. My daughter Billy has had every opportunity I could give her. I paid for her birth. I paid for her childhood. I helped with college before she quit. And what has she given me? Nothing. Not a dollar. Not a thank you. Not even a visit on most holidays. She paused for effect. So today, on Mother's Day, I'm asking her, in front of all of you, to either make it right or admit what she is. Tanner had his phone up, filming. 2 other cousins did the same. Marlene pointed at me. "Billy, stand up." I didn't stand. "Say it," she said. "Say thank you, Mom, for everything you sacrificed." I looked at her. No. The word sat in the air like a stone dropped into a pond. No. No. Because the invoice is wrong. And you know it. Marlene didn't flinch. She turned to the table like a lawyer presenting to a jury. "You see this? 35 years, and she can't even say thank you. This is what I've dealt with. A daughter who left school, opened a little bakery, and acts like the world owes her something." A few relatives shifted uncomfortably, but a few others, the ones Marlene had primed for weeks, nodded. My mother's younger cousin, a woman named Patsy, spoke up from the far end. "Billy, it's Mother's Day. Just say you're grateful." "I am grateful," I said. "To the person who raised me." Marlene's smile faltered. "I raised you." "Mom." I kept my voice level. "You sent a bill for $347,000 to 48 people and called me a failure. On Mother's Day, in front of my grandmother, the woman who actually— Don't you dare." Marlene's voice cracked for the first time. Not from emotion, from control slipping. "Don't you dare sit there and pretend I wasn't your mother. I'm not pretending anything. I'm asking you to be honest about the timeline. I was there. She shouted it. The yard absorbed it. A child at the far table started crying. Brooke put her hand on Marlene's arm. Mom, sit down, please. Marlene shook her off. Her eyes were wet now, and her lip was trembling, and for a half second I saw something underneath the performance. Something raw, and human, and desperate. She needed this to be true. She needed the story she'd told for 30 years to hold, because if it didn't, then what was left? I could have destroyed her right there. I could have stood up and listed every year, every address, every night that Pearl sat up with me while Marlene was building her new life 3 states away. I could have told the table about the monthly checks